In our last tutorial, we created custom buttons to make reuse easier for our project. Now, let's take a minute to look at the design and see what we can work on next. We can focus on the first view of our onboarding. We have 4 sections in this view. We will only focus on one for now, the section for identifying gender. We will look at age, weight, and the height sliders later in the tutorial. Now that we know what we're going to do next, let's go back to Xcode. As I stated earlier in the tutorial, we will use the view model to track the user's selections. Before doing anything, let's jump into our view model by hitting Command-Shift-O and typing onboarding and hit return. Now let's add the following variable: @published var selected gender type equals 0. Now hit Command-Shift-O again, type personal, and hit return. Let's start by adding our first property inside of the personal info view. Let's type @environment object var model : onboarding view model. We have now created an instance of the view model inside of the personal info view. After the body variable, let's add var identity section : some view. And then we're going to add a VStack. We'll add the alignment property and set it to .leading. Inside of the VStack, let's add a text view, and we're going to put "How do you identify?" inside of the quotes. Underneath the text view, let's add another VStack, and inside of this VStack, we're going to add for each parenthesis 0 ... less than model.genders.count, comma ID : \self closing parenthesis opening curly brace index in return. Then we're going to add our custom button called capsule list button. We're going to add title, and we're going to set it to model.genders bracket index. Now let's add type, and we're going to set it to self.model.selected gender type. After type, we're going to add index, and we're going to set it to index. Finally, we're going to add an action, and then we're going to do opening and closing curly brace and hit return. Inside of the curly brace, we're going to type self.model.selected gender type equals index. After the capsule list button, let's add a couple of lines, and let's say if index is not equal to model.genders.count -1, inside of the if statement, we'll add a spacer. Inside of this if statement, we're saying if the index is not equal to the overall number of genders, then we want to add a spacer. Our identity section is done, but we need to just add some modifiers to it. So let's start by adding a font and setting it to custom, setting the custom font to .medium and the size to 18. Next, let's add some padding and set it to 15. We'll add a background modifier and set it to white. We'll then add a corner radius and set it to 15. We'll add some horizontal padding and set it to 15. And finally add some bottom padding and set it to 10. When adding an environment object, this usually breaks previews. Inside of previews, after personal info view, add .environment object parenthesis onboarding view model. Now inside of the body, command click on the text view and select embed. Then type scroll view. Now command click on the text view again and select embed in VStack. Now inside of the text view, delete the word view and add the font modifier to the text view. Let's set font to .custom. We'll give it a black font style with the font size of 30. Next, let's add some padding and set it to the top. Under the text view, add the variable identity section. Now, let's add some modifiers to scroll view. First, add a frame modifier and add a max width and set it to .infinity. Let's also add a max height and set it to .infinity. Finally, let's add a background modifier and set it to color.base background. We have completed the first part of Personal View. We will come back later and add the sliders. If you like this tutorial, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel.